Welcome to Come Back with Erica Cobb, Conversations with My Sister. This is your bonus episode. First, a little housekeeping. Where are you going to be on Friday, June 16th? Of course, you're going to be here in Denver at Verone Market because you want to come to the Come Back with Erica Cobb live podcast event. I know you do. I want to see you there. It's going to be lit. Tickets are available on Eventbrite. Claudia Jordan is the special guest. Comedian Al Jackson will be opening, and there will be food, folks, fun, DJs, all the things, and of course some fabulous shopping. So make sure you bring your credit card as well because we're going to be kicking it for the summer kickoff, all right? So let's get started with what's on your mind. Actually, I'm going to start this week with what's on my mind.
Let's go.
Ebony Cobb, welcome back.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thanks for having me.
So what's on my mind is a gentleman named Ja Morant.
All right.
Yeah.
All
Why
right.
such a visceral reaction?
It's been dominating the sports headlines, so let's just
Yeah.
get to it. Let's just
Not
get
only
to
the
it.
sports headlines, but all the headlines. And I'm bringing up Ja Morant because ultimately it is a comeback story. Now, when I first told you it was a comeback story, what did you say?
I mean, he hasn't quite come back yet,
Mm-hmm.
but we'd like to think that this is the start of his comeback.
Right. Well, some people would like to think, others not so much.
Yeah. You know, I have my thoughts.
Okay,
but
well, we're
I'd
gonna
love to hear yours.
Okay, we're going to get into your thoughts. So I thought that this was a really important story to talk about on the Comeback platform because when we talk about comebacks, people think that it's, it's something that you have a starting point of a setback season and then the ending point is your ultimate comeback. But there's so many things that can happen along the way. And one of those things could be making the same mistake more than once. And this is a very public story of an NBA player who was suspended for multiple games because he displayed a firearm on a live on Instagram. And when he was suspended, he was reinstated, and then he made the same mistake mere months later. Some people are saying it wasn't a mistake. A lot of people are scrutinizing him, calling him a moron, amongst other things. But I think that this is a comeback story that a lot of young people can really learn from. What are your initial thoughts?
I agree. When I was 23, I was the dumbest I could ever be. You can give me two envelopes, like good decision, bad decision. Don't choose a bad decision, and I would still be like, that bad decision looks pretty good. 23, I did the dumbest things in my life, and I was worth $35. So I would have no idea what I would be doing at 23 with access and millions of dollars.
Yeah.
And friends that may not be the best influence on me.
Yeah.
So on one part of me, I'm looking as like someone who overcame all that and is just like, oh, I'm okay in life now. I understand it. I'm more mature. And I can sit here and say, oh, he's just an idiot. He's messing up. The other part is, what were we all doing at 23? I'm thankful enough where, number one, social media wasn't a big part of my life at that age. So I never really, a lot of things that I might have done wasn't really known by a lot of people. And people didn't know who I was. So it was kind of one of those things where it was more my family being like, you're being an idiot, as opposed to the whole world telling me that. And I remember how that felt and then continually getting that over and over again from them. But also, like, you gotta learn things on your own. But I just look back and think, like, at 23, what were we all doing? At 23, if you had millions of followers and millions of dollars, do you think you can sit here and judge this man right now?
I mean, that's a fair point. He is only 23 years old, but he's not the first 23-year-old professional athlete or the first 23-year-old to have millions and millions of dollars and to be born and raised in a social media world. But you did bring up a one point that a lot of people are addressing, and it's, what about your friends? And to be honest, I definitely, I was going to say 45 years old. I'm not. I'm 42 years old, close enough. And I am just getting to a point based on all of the changes in my life, especially in my career, because this is what my perception of how friendship, interpersonal relationships, when it comes to high profile careers go. A lot of people say that you change when you get a come up or a high profile position. But what I found, especially being older and more mature, is that it tends to make the people around you change. And that now you have people who might be more influenced by your position in life than you are, but they are your circle, so you're influencing each other. It becomes like a toxic cycle. So when I see a 23-year-old multimillionaire star athlete making the same dumb mistake near months later, I'm thinking, who is outside or in the insular area of the circle that can step in to be like, you need to make some changes and it's going to be hard because it is so hard. Like people are always like, get rid of the friends, get rid of the circle. In my experience, losing a close friend or multiple close friends was more difficult than my divorce. So it's really hard to just be like, okay, we'll stop hanging around certain people. But then what is the alternative? Like if you were his friend at this juncture, what would your advice to him be?
If I was also 23, or if as an adult,
What would your advice be to him now?
You gotta just change it. You gotta change it. You can't be putting yourself in that position. Like at some point, you're doing these things that are going to lead down a totally different path than what you want to go on. You're a great player. You're 23. You have one of the best stories I've ever heard coming out of that draft. I don't know if you know his background. He was a high school senior, had 0 scholarship offers. Got lucky one day in an open gym or like some tournament game. A scout from Murray State found him. He ended up going to Murray State. Had a baller college career. Ended up number 2 behind his teammate from South Carolina, Zion Williamson. Gets drafted, and like he ends up coming in the league and is explosive. Just changes the whole game. Puts Memphis on his back and just is really changing the league. He's supposed to be the face of this league. So looking at that, it's just like, and everyone knows this about you. You have this Nike situation. You have this, $200 million contract situation. You know that this is all going to be given to you if you just stay the course. Pay attention to what's important here. It's not about your friends. It's not about your status. It's not about how people perceive you, if they think you're soft or all that. You are looking at generational wealth. You're changing your whole family and future generations behind that. Who cares what you think about yourself, like what people think about you right now? You understand that you have a lot of things going on and it might be stressful, but the way you're handling it right now, it's going to end towards you just being another dude who has had a chance, blew it, and is $0, and now you're what? Showing up on G League games trying to get a chance. And it happens.
It does happen. I mean, we've seen it happen. We've seen people really squander their opportunity and squander, the resources that they were given, which makes me believe that this is a cry for help. Like anytime someone has consequences, especially with the public scrutiny, and they turn around and do the same thing. I mean, think about times where you've made the same mistake over and over. Like I've made the same mistake over and over.
Yeah.
And it was because I wasn't in a balanced place. Like I wasn't mentally healthy. I didn't necessarily have the support around me or know how to get the support around me that I needed.
But the flip side of that is, and I'm sorry to cut you off, but how much do you think that has to do with, I have all this money and all this on my back right now? Like, this is my way. And he said it in the first apology. This is, I got to find out better ways to cope. And maybe listen to NBA Youngboy isn't your move. Maybe you need to start understanding, listen to some better. I'm not even blaming on music, because I hate that. I hate it when people do that stuff. But, like, just realistically, there's probably a lot on your shoulders. You have a whole team that really is invested in you for the long term. You have contracts, you have family, you have friends that are all depending on you, and you can't be in the gym fighting high school kids. Like, there's something that's not, like, there's a missing piece there that we're not seeing.
Well, I think a big part of the missing piece is emotional maturity. And then another part, and I am a huge proponent of therapy, is get therapy preemptively. Don't yes, it's very important if you're going through something. I definitely have had emergency therapy. But when I'm just maintaining my mental health the same way that I would maintain my physical being in terms of like working out on a regular basis so that I can stay physically healthy, like the time to go to therapy and talk to someone is really when you're just thinking like, hey, I might have something on my heart, on my mind that I don't necessarily feel comfortable telling the people around me, or I don't know how to articulate myself in that way. And now it's being suppressed and it's coming out and manifesting itself in a lot of different ways. So, I mean, I think that therapy is very important, but ultimately, I don't know if he's going to get another chance. Do you believe he's going to get another chance?
Yes, he will 100% have another chance.
So what do you think the consequences will be?
I think he's gonna take he's gonna be suspended for sure. He's gonna take a financial hit. Nike already moved his shoes from the site, so he just had shoes dropped. They're already gone from the site. They're wipes. He's gonna. I don't know. I'm curious what's gonna happen with the Nike endorsement. I don't think the team's gonna waive him. I don't think there's a chance the team waives him. But I think there will be some type of suspension, which is going to impact his money because if he doesn't make All-Star team next year or first team, he's getting hits because that's part of his contract. So that's tens of millions of dollars lost right there from a 2-second mistake. So yeah, I mean, there's stories behind this. We can look at Gilbert Arenas. We can look at the guy Gilbert Arenas was with where the whole conversation happened. What ended up with him? Critton, something like that. I believe he's in jail now just for gun violence. I believe he ended up shooting a woman. So like, this isn't the first time this has happened in the NBA, but there's all those cautionary stories before that you hear. They have rookie clinics that they talk about this stuff. Before you enter the league, you hear about these things. And that's not to say that, like, you should know better. Like, you should know better, but it's to say that, like, this isn't something out the blue. This isn't the first time it's happened. We don't know how to deal with it. I believe, didn't Gilbert Arenas, like, get suspended for, like, either a half season or a whole season of no pay?
I don't know.
Yeah.
Like, let me keep it all the way 100.
I'm sorry.
don't know.
I like sports.
I don't
follow
know.
things.
She just turned this into ESPN. Okay, I'm like, is the boy gonna come back or not? Okay,
I don't know. I'm looking at the president situation. I can't remember the Gilbert Arenas thing such a long time ago, but looking back at it, I don't know. Like, I know he's gonna get suspended. The question is it gonna be half season, whole season? What's it gonna be? Because you already have Adam Silver being like, I can't believe this.
Right.
So if your boss is looking at you like, dude, I gave you a second chance, and you still blew it, you probably won't be really walking away with a slap on the wrist anymore. You're going to do some time.
Well, listen, I don't know if the resolution will come before this episode airs, but right now we don't know the resolution. But at the end of the day, when people ask me about the comeback, is the comeback possible? I do believe that everyone is deserving of the comeback that they're willing to earn. And this is a young man who has a very uphill battle of earning his comeback. And at the end of the day, while so many people are disappointed, a lot of people have publicly said that they've given up on this dude. I don't believe in people just being tossed to the side, never to be heard from again. I think that this can be an opportunity to show that you can screw up once, you can screw up twice, you can screw up multiple times, but there has to be a path to redemption. And ultimately, I hope that he gets that, and I hope that he has to earn it in the way that people will look at him as a role model or someone that, you know, they can walk that path to. Because for everyone who's saying, and I do agree that there's so many young people who are looking up to him and that he's not being a good role model, there's also a role model scenario in your path to redemption if you walk that path correctly. And so we'll just have to see how he walks his path.
I mean, worst case, he's joining Dwight Howard in Taiwan.
Okay, well, you're listening to Come Back with Erica Cobb. This is Conversations with my sister, Ebony Cobb. Ebony, what's on your mind?
So if you're in a scenario where someone calls you and they're like, hey, I need your advice on something, and then you give them the advice and they do the exact opposite thing.
Uh-huh.
Like, there's a term for this. It's called an ask, A-S-K, hole. I just had this happen to me earlier today, so it's been on my mind. Why? Like, I feel like people call you and they take your time because they want to, I don't know, feel like what they're about to do is right. And they just want you to be behind them on it, but they don't want to really ask you to be behind them on it. So they want you to act like, you know, like, I don't know, what's the best way to put this? They want confirmation about what they're thinking, but I'm never going to give you confirmation. So, like, I'm going to give you my opinion and my advice. And then once I see that you take in the opposite direction and didn't even account for that, then usually I'm like, why'd you waste my time knowing that you were never going to do that? Have you had this happen?
Oh, all the time.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
Sometimes, but here's the thing. Okay, so essentially, I'll put this into a context that people can understand. So, okay, let's say that you have a girlfriend and she's on a dating app, and she sees a guy on there, and she's attracted to him. She's had a couple conversations, but there's been some red flags. So she calls you and says, hey, this guy that I met on this dating app, I'm thinking that I'm going to go and get drinks with him, but just a drink because, you know, I know this, and this about him, so it's not going to be compatible. And then it turns into another date. And then they call you and like, I really think I like this guy. What do you think? I mean, they are red flags, but it might not be that bad. And then you say, oh, I'm not really sure because the last time that these red flags presented themselves, they didn't turn out so well. So maybe you could cut your losses before you catch feelings and move on to somebody who might be a little bit more compatible to you. And then she's like, okay, cool, cool, cool. And then she goes out with him. And 6 months later, you don't even hear from her because she did the exact opposite of what you said you gave her the advice to do. And so that would be an ask hole situation.
Yeah, yeah.
Yes.
I think a better way to put it is like 6 months later, she's scared to tell you what's going on because you know that she offered this advice, and then when they break up, she's even more scared to talk to you. 'Cause then you're just gonna sit there and be like, "Told you this. You asked me a question. I told you." That's what an ask hole is.
But you just answered your own question as to why people do this, because they don't want to hear, I told you so. Like, I told you so is people act like that is like the kiss of death. Like, you will never recover from I told you so. And personally, as I get older, I appreciate I told you so more and more because it also reminds me that there was a time in this situation that I needed to trust my intuition and my gut, and I chose not to based on how I was feeling in that moment. So that I told you so isn't like necessarily sticking it to someone to be like, I was right and you were wrong. It was also, I told you so could also mean like, hey, you need to trust your intuition and your gut a little bit more because you knew that's why you asked me for confirmation, but you chose to do what felt good in the moment. So maybe think about the long term if you don't want to feel this way again.
No, I agree. I'm just me, so I'm like, why'd you call me in the first place? Like, if you knew you weren't gonna go with my advice, or you weren't gonna sit down and think about it, then why'd you call me and ask me for advice?
Because you're thinking of it in terms of, and you're right, your time is a valuable resource. So if someone's calling you and taking up a half hour, an hour of your day on something that they are claiming to be like on the fence about, trying to make a decision, and they're making it seem as though they're going to consider what you're saying, then you're giving that investment willingly. And when they don't utilize the investment, it feels like they robbed you of a resource.
So I should start charging people for advice. Is what I should.
Maybe a deposit.
Yeah, I mean, maybe it's just like I'm a retainer. So like whenever.
I don't know. I mean, you give pretty decent advice.
I feel like I give okay advice. I mean, we both know an asshole in our life. We both know a mutual asshole. Like, and we're not gonna say any names. We're not gonna throw it out there. But this particular person will call you, ask you for the advice, be 100% with you about it, and say, yes, that's a good idea. I'm gonna do that. And next time you talk to that person, they did the exact opposite.
Exact opposite
every time. And I was like, something about that today just triggered me. I was like, why are you calling me?
Yeah. Yeah. Moral of the story, don't be an ask hole.
It's pretty simple. I mean, think of others' time. Think about my time. It's not cheap.
Okay. Welcome to our... You're listening to Come Back with Erica Cobb. It's conversations with my sister, Ebony. So we have the great sibling debate. Now, every week we have a topic. Okay, every week we have a topic. And we're going to talk about something that is actually happening, whether it's with us or it's headlines or whatever it is. And because we fall on two different sides of the coin, okay? So today we're going to be talking about social media. Now, for any of you who have been listening to me, following me for quite some time, a big part of my brand and my career in media was built on social media. Okay. So social media for me isn't just something that I do for fun. In fact, it isn't for fun, it's for work. Two totally different things. Where on the complete polar opposite, I have my younger sister, Ebony, who just refuses to be on social media, period. So I feel like, especially now that we're doing this podcast together, that Ebony needs a social media presence. So I am going to kick it to y'all. Should my sister Ebony join social media? I know how I'm voting, and I just want to know what your issue with social media is and why at 35 you are not on social media.
Put my age out there again.
Yeah.
First off, I'm 34. For at least another month. So first off, here's my thing with social media. When I was in college, my freshman year, I was an athlete. We had a rule in place that you cannot have social media. So that was a time where Facebook was just becoming kind of big. So for 4 years, I kind of had a Facebook page, but it was never my name. I never really put much information out there because I never wanted to get caught. So by the time, I graduated, I was looking for jobs, and I was learning that, people my age were getting in trouble for their social media pages. So they were like going on and looking at all this stuff. So I never really posted anything, but I was like, you know what? I don't want to be involved in that. So I got off social media when I was younger, and thankfully when I was 23, I did not have social media. Shout out to John Morant. So thankfully during my dumbest time, I did not have a social media page. But then when I got back on my own business, I got back on social media temporarily, and then I just didn't really want to hear about people's opinions like that. And I know this is a show about my opinion, but it was getting during a time where there's elections and all that. 2020 was a tough time to be on social media where you realize half your friend list was racist, and it was it just got hard to be on it for me, and I just learned it was easier for me to be off of it. And then there's the other thing where even now people do this to me where they feel like they know me, so they'll start a conversation with me about something I might have posted. And then it's kind of uncomfortable for me because I'm like, I don't know anything about your life. I didn't follow you back. So you're telling me about my weekend, and I'm just like, that's kind of weird because I didn't even know we were friends.
But see, that really shows you how distant you are on social media, because that is just it's a different form of interpersonal communication. So most people, in my situation, I have a lot of followers who I don't necessarily follow back. And that's because they're following me based on a platform or something, but the connection is the follow based on the platform. So when they're engaging in conversations with me, then I understand that this is somebody who connected with me because of something that I said on my daytime talk show or something that I said on my podcast, and that is the common denominator. So it doesn't necessarily have to be so deep. It just is a different way for people to connect. And for a lot of people, it's one of the biggest ways that they connect.
I'm fully aware of this.
Yeah.
Whenever I'm off social media, I always miss events and stuff. And I'm like, well, you should have called me. My bad. You sent it through a Facebook invite or an Instagram post or something like that. And I'm just like, why didn't you just call me? So then I would freak out that you're calling me and then get anxiety about calling you back. And I'll call you back 3 months from now, and then you'll tell me that I missed an event. Why wouldn't we just go through that? I just prefer that system a little bit more.
Okay. I think that there's a lot of reasons why Ebony should join social media. I've never pressured you to join before, but we're doing this weekly podcast, and people are constantly communicating with you through my profiles. So I feel
perfect.
like I don't have time. What do I look like?
money.
You're a social media receptionist? I'm not your social media
this is perfect.
receptionist. No, I am not
Perfect.
taking messages for Ebony. So Ebony needs to come up with her own social media profile.
This is
So if somebody has something to say to Ebony, you can at Ebony, not send me DMs through at Erica Cobb, because Erica Cobb has her own people to engage with. Not say y'all not my people, because y'all on my profile, so yes, you my people. But you need a way, direct communication to get to you.
But I'm not a fan of direct communication. You know what? I think this system works well. I think we should stick with this.
Yeah, no.
I think we should stick with this.
No. And I'm not
Let's
even
vote on that.
I'm not
Should
even
you just
gonna-
stay as my social media manager or my filter?
Your social media manager filter.
My social media filter. You filter who gets to me.
No. No.
That's going 0 to 100?
No.
Or, okay, never mind.
That
I mean,
feels
it's-
first of all, how dare you? I have time to be filtering or getting your messages and sending them. I have time to communicate back and forth for you.
I mean, just, some preliminary questions like, who are you? Why are you trying to contact my sister?
You
And
have lost your ever-loving mind.
I thought big sisters were here to protect you. I didn't know.
Oh, wow. Wow, you have lost it.
Do you not remember the beginning of the internet? Sometimes you need somebody to filter it all through,
Okay. Well, you chime in. Is it necessary for Ebony to have a social media profile? Send us a comment, of course, on my social media.
I think it's already working.
All right, so now's the time that we talk about what we're looking forward to. So, what you got coming up?
So I am disciplining myself lately. I have like 50 hours of coursework left in this coding boot camp I'm in right now. So I'm looking forward to spending the next couple weeks just finishing that up and getting that certificate and being an official software developer.
Yeah.
Yeah, just feeling like an adult. Yeah.
You'll be an official software developer. So,
Official.
what does that mean exactly?
It means that I finished my boot camp for front end engineering or front end developer, which I guess goes in the story of I went to school for exercise science.
Yes, you did go to school for exercise
Got
science.
multiple degrees in it, and now I'm an engineer. Um, but yeah, I'll have the official, like I've been doing it as a job for a little bit, but I'll have the official certificate in a matter of a couple weeks. So just buckling down. So I'm looking forward to just kind of studying, which sounds weird, but I'm excited about the outcome of it.
Yeah.
Yeah. What are you
Well,
looking
good for
forward
you.
to?
Well, I finally got clearance to start IVF. So,
Oh, snap.
Yeah, that's crazy, huh? I have clearance, but it's going to be, I'm still a matter of like a month or so out from actually starting.
Okay.
But for those of you who have been following my journey, I actually started this process like a year and a half ago. And because of my age and the reasons why I was having fertility issues, I was required to go through a host of tests and leaps and bounds and jumps. And it took over a year and a half. And honestly, in the interest of transparency, a big part of why it took so long for me to get to the point of even starting, because keep in mind, I have friends and people around me who started at the same time that I started, and they have whole babies now. But because of the issues with my fertility, it required a little bit more like testing before, a lot of specialists. I've gone through a lot of different things. And when people think about fertility, they think about like what it takes for the sperm to fertilize the egg and nothing else. But, and I've kind of talked about this, but I had to get an MRI. There was a tumor on my brain. It was non-cancerous. But it's something that actually is pretty common and leads to issues for a lot of women, fertility issues, on the pituitary gland or otherwise. So again, I have no like regrets about my fertility journey or about growing my family and the way that we're doing this. I feel very confident about however things turn out. I know that I have a very blessed life and I'll be very fulfilled regardless of the outcome. But it is really important to be proactive about knowing about your fertility health. So if you have an opportunity to talk to your OBGYN, especially if you're approaching your 30s, and you haven't ever gotten pregnant, then those are conversations you want to have, and you want to continue to push your medical providers to get more and more details as to possible things that could be going wrong. And until I found a Black OBGYN, Black female OBGYN, none of these questions were ever presented to me. These weren't even things I ever thought about. So I think it's also important that you're very intentional about who your healthcare provider is as well. In terms of the fertility journey, I'm just kind of like, I don't know. I feel confident about it, but I'm like, it's kind of like what will be will be.
Yeah. Yeah. That's kind of where I'm at. I'm like, I don't know. I don't have much to do on my end to help you out. So I'm like, positive vibes.
Yeah.
Stress-free life.
Yeah.
Keep it easy.
And I'm working on that. I went to acupuncture today. I am feeling like $1 million. And I'm just like trying to not be stressed out. And, that's a job in itself.
That's fair.
To not be stressed out. But I did want to mention this as well because I think that this is important. We are in Colorado, And Colorado is a safe space when it comes to women's reproductive rights. As a result, when Roe v. Wade was overturned, a lot of clinics in states that automatically decided to go with the overturning of Roe v. Wade, banning abortions. It made a lot of questions about what embryos or what were going to be done with embryos that were being stored. A lot of those embryos and a lot of those patients came to Colorado and states where it's a safe space. And as a result, it backed up everything. So for people who are thinking about it, I would suggest that you get on it as soon as possible, because now there is fierce competition for time, for resources, for doctors, and you want to know that this isn't something that's going to happen overnight. So that would be my PSA and my warning to any person who is looking to go through the IVF or fertility journey. And yeah, that's what I'm looking forward to.
Yours is way better than mine.
Yours is really important too, and I appreciate you sharing. And as always, Comeback Community, share it with us on my social media until we get Ebony on social media. But I love to hear from you. So leave us a review, leave us 5 stars, and hit me up at Erica Cobb on all social media platforms and chime in about today's episode. Thanks for listening.
Quick question for you. What are you doing on June 16th?
Oh, June 16th. Yeah, I'm doing this Comeback with Erica Cobb live podcast.
Tell me more.
So in the show notes, go ahead, purchase your tickets, or on my social media, just click the link in bio on Eventbrite, Comeback with Erica Cobb, and we will see you Friday, June 16th. Thanks for the reminder.
No problem.